All right, thank you. I just want to give you a little bit of background about me, who I am, and give you a little bit more information on that side of things. So as Tiffany said, my name is Cece Conover. I am a volunteer with Dress for Success, and I have been working with Dress for Success in a volunteer capacity for about 15 years. In my real working life, I worked for the city of Fishers for 18 years as a director of human resources. I've since retired back in 2018. So I've had some free time on my hands and decided to use that free time to use more time to work with clients with Dress for Success and help them in their job search. So I've been thrilled to be able to participate in these kinds of venues where we're able to share some tips and tricks throughout COVID, and then as well as in-person sessions. So a couple of quick things about human resources and about recruiting in general. There are a ton of laws and regulations that govern human resources, but there's also a lot of kind of personal preferences, and recruiting is one of those that kind of differs a little bit more into personal preferences. So as I go through this workshop, I will interject some points where I will let you know this is based on something that is more governed or regulated by laws and rules. And these are some things that I personally find as a preference as I'm going through selecting candidates to move forward in processes or to extend job offers to them. So I'll try to differentiate between my personal preferences from things that are more governed by laws and rules. So hopefully that will help you a little bit. I am a really fast talker. Tiffany can attest to that, but I'm super informal. So I really do want to make this presentation something that's going to be beneficial to you. And I generally find that when there are more interactive moments through a presentation, it becomes a bit more rewarding for everyone. So please feel free to ask questions. Just jump in if you want to, and or send a chat. As Tiffany said, she'll read a chat comment to me as well. So don't feel like you have to be respectful and not interrupt me. That's not necessary whatsoever. So feel free to interject either your personal experiences or ask me to elaborate more or to clarify. Happy to do that. So just kind of some baseline rules there. This is a pretty dense presentation, so I do want to move fairly quickly from slide to slide. But as Tiffany said, you'll get a copy of the presentation, and there's a lot of the dialogue of what I'm going to share with you in the PowerPoint. So you'll be able to follow back up on that front as well. So let's talk a little bit about what we're going to cover today. We're going to talk a little bit about the job search landscape, which has changed certainly over the last couple of years. One really important component that folks don't often talk about is the emotional roller coaster of looking for a job. And I'm going to talk a little bit about getting through that piece of it, being mindful and aware of it, and how you can navigate it. Then creating a job search plan, which I think is super important. Sometimes I think folks get into a place where they think they need to find a job quickly, and they'll just throw anything up on the wall and see what sticks. And that's certainly one methodology for finding a job. But in an effort to find the job, something that you're really going to like and potentially stick with for a long period of time, it's a better strategy to come up with a job search plan. And we'll talk about how to do that. And then also finding and sustaining motivation. Looking for a job is a full-time job, and it can be really tough to stay motivated through it and to make sure that you're, kind of chugging forward as you're going through that. So introductions. I know we've got a fairly good sized group on today, but I'd really like if we're able to take just a few moments, either if you just want to think about your answers, or if you want to call out your answer, I'd really appreciate it. So if you would think about what one word describes how you feel about your job search today. Do you feel excited, anxious, nervous? What kinds of emotions or words would you use to describe how you feel about your job search? That would be one question. And if you've already begun your job search, what has surprised you most about the job search process? Anything, maybe you haven't looked for a job in a while, and so now you're looking for a job for the first time in maybe 5-10 years. Has there been any surprises? And like I said, if it isn't the first time, what's different for you this time? So Tiffany, did we get any comments on that in the chat?
Yes, Sonia said overwhelming is the word she would use.
Yep. That's a good one.
And then Tamala, same thing, overwhelming.
Yeah.
Overwhelming, absolutely, from Caitlin.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine overwhelming it is a predominant theme. And I would suspect that there's a couple of factors that play into that. And we'll talk about that as we go through the presentation, but it probably feels a bit overwhelming because it's something that you don't do on a regular basis. And then it probably also feels overwhelming because there are so many different ways to look for a job today than what there was maybe even 15 years ago. I'm old enough to know that way back in the day, the best way to look for a job was to get the Indianapolis Star on the Sunday and get the classified sections and go through that paper document and circle the ads that looked appealing to you. So today it's a far more different landscape, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, but that may predominantly be some of the causes for the overwhelming feelings. Tiffany, are there more comments?
Yeah, we also have exciting and nervous. And I don't want to butcher this name. I know it's not Zara, but it Miss Wilson said exciting and nervous. Stressful, yep. That's another one.
Yep. Yeah, it is nervous. Like I said, if it's something that you don't do very often and you want to get it right. And so you put a lot of pressure on yourself. So that may cause some nerves and stress. But it is exciting. It's a new venture. It's a new opportunity. And so we'll talk about all those things, hopefully, as we go forward. All right, so how the job search has evolved. Certainly where and how you look for a job has really, really changed. There's lots and lots of job boards that are out there now. You can sign up for job alerts, which we'll talk a little bit about. The number of applications you might end up completing can feel pretty overwhelming. And applicant tracking systems. I want to spend just a little bit of time talking about applicant tracking systems because, as I recall in the presentation, this is about the only time that it pops up. And it's really, really critical that candidates understand what an applicant tracking system is, or ATS. Applicant tracking systems are used by companies, larger size companies typically, to scrub and to scan applications for the recruiter. And so it literally goes through and looks at a person's application to see if it meets some of the minimum criteria. And so it is really, really important that when you fill out an online application, that you're filling it out completely, thoroughly, accurately, no abbreviated words, no misspellings, because that is the first gate that you go through typically in a recruiting process. And if your application is not filled out correctly and accurately, you're going to stop right there and not continue to move forward through a process. So I don't know that a lot of applicants are familiar with this technique that is often used. It really makes the process much more impersonal, unfortunately, but it is a way for a recruiter to get through hundreds of applications that would normally come across their desks. So if you have questions or you want to discuss applicant tracking systems, I'm happy to do that, but let's hold that off to the back end because, like I said, this is a pretty dense presentation and there's a lot that can be said about that. Self-branding is necessary, and that's something that is super new because of social media predominantly. But used to, all you really worried about was your resume. What did it look like? Did you use ivory paper? What size font did you use? What sort of script did you use? So that is far less important, and it's much more comprehensive look at who you are. And there's actually a whole other presentation just on branding alone, but we'll talk a little bit about it and the importance of it. Your information is visible. So unless you lock down your sites, and I'm talking about Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, if you keep those profiles public and open, recruiters and hiring managers may and most likely will view your sites because, again, what they're trying to do is to understand the total candidate and the total applicant. And so getting insights into your social media activity gives them a little bit more information about who you are. We really, really recommend that you get involved in LinkedIn. If you do not have a LinkedIn profile, you're missing an opportunity to connect and do some networking there, as well as find out about some job opportunities. And so when you do have these social media platforms, just setting them up and leaving them dormant doesn't do you any good. So what we do as recruiters is if someone says that they are, let's say, applying for a landscaping job, I'm going to look at potentially their Instagram picture to see if they have feeds that speak to their landscape interests. I'm going to see if they're looking at articles to see what the latest and greatest breeds, species, techniques are. And so they're very active, they're very passionate, they're really committed to their profession. And so when you're on those platforms, LinkedIn is certainly one of them, whether it's you're publishing articles or you're reading articles and liking them or commenting on them, that again shows your engagement and your interest. So your activity or lack of activity on your platforms says a lot about you in terms of a candidate. For me personally, my LinkedIn page is super dormant. So if I ever did decide I wanted to go back into the job market, that would be my first stop, would be to update, refresh, and engage in my LinkedIn site. And I would encourage you to do the same. So navigating the emotions of a job loss. I don't know how many of you out there are looking for a job because you unexpectedly lost a job, but if that's the case, there are certainly a lot of emotions that come along with that, and acknowledging them and recognizing them is super important as you're going through this job search process. So losing a job is similar to losing a friend or family member, because you do spend a lot of time with your job and you also commit a lot of energy and effort to it. So if you've unexpectedly lost a job, you might even be dealing with sadness or fear or anger. Those kinds of emotions are certainly legitimate and to be expected, but you've got to work through them and then get to that neutral zone where you're maybe feeling confused or uncertain. And then you can get to the stage where you're really ready for a new beginning and you start to accept what happened and you're ready to move on and really begin to dive in with a fresh perspective in looking for a new job. So think about those kinds of things that happen to you if you've unexpectedly lost a job for whatever reason, and then just being prepared to accept and acknowledge and deal with those emotions. Okay, plan your work and work your plan. I know Tiffany has heard me say this a million times and she's probably going to roll her eyes now. But I had a friend who would say, we never plan to fail. And that is so true. But what we do is we fail to plan. And so if you go into your job search and as I mentioned earlier, kind of throwing everything at the wall and see what sticks, that is certainly one strategy, and it's not an uncommon strategy, but a much more successful strategy is to have a plan. And for me, I really do enjoy having a to-do list. To-do lists are fantastic because it helps me to remember what I need to do. It's super gratifying to check things off of my to-do list. Love, love, love to scratch something off that I already accomplished. But for me too, it helps with the self-talk. And so as I'm laying down at night, trying to go to sleep, if I am nervous about forgetting to do something, as long as I know I've written it down, that can help put some peace of mind for me. So for those of you who may be a little stressed, maybe creating that to-do list is going to be helpful. I will talk a little bit more at the very end about Nextjob website. It is a phenomenal resource to all of you. And at the end of this presentation, you will get login and credentialing information so that you can access this website. This PowerPoint presentation was predominantly built from that website. So you'll see some things from this PowerPoint presentation that will refer back to or is from the Nextjob website. So if you're feeling overwhelmed and not quite sure where to start, this Nextjob website will even give you templates and plans for how to begin a job search. There's templates out there for writing resumes and cover letters. There's also some personality tests that are really super fascinating and intriguing. But it is a very dense, very resourceful website, and I highly encourage you to use that. But again, the to-do list and coming up with a plan should help a little bit with that overwhelming feeling. It allows you to kind of break up your pieces into certain days and let you go through it maybe a little bit more slowly and more methodically. Overcoming barriers that surface. I think this is really, really good to know. Fear has two meanings: forget everything and run, which is certainly one reaction that some of us have, or face everything and rise. And that's certainly another reaction. And hopefully you'll choose the second one. So hopefully when you do have fear that maybe you're feeling intimidated or stressed or anxious about the job search process, it can inspire you to actually rise to the occasion. So maybe some things that you're thinking about in the back of your head: you haven't interviewed in a while, and oh my goodness, sitting in front of an interview is super, super stressful. A couple of resources that are available to you. The Nextjob website actually has some mock interview opportunities where you can sit in front of your computer screen with a video of a recruiter who's asking you questions and then pauses and allows you to craft your answer. Another opportunity is through Dress for Success. So even though we're not doing a lot of in-person stuff right now, we could do some mock phone interviews, and later on down the line, we'll be able to do some in-person mock interviews. And that can be a really great way for you to kind of test out your answers that you would get from common interview questions, and then to get some feedback about some things about your interview answer that you may improve, or some things about your interview answer that's spot on. So those mock interviews can be super, super helpful, and I'd really encourage you to consider doing that. Some people are worried about discrimination, and I can't say that it doesn't happen, because unfortunately it does. There are laws and rules that prevent it, but it does happen. So what I would say is there's a lot of recruiters out there, recruiters like me and others, who do like to hire candidates who have more years of experience, because there's something that can be said for experience, things that you gain from real world experience that you cannot get from a book or from a classroom. You might feel like your network is small, and that's where LinkedIn can come in to help you build your network. You know 2 people, they know 4 people, and so on and so on. And so your network can really grow exponentially if you tap into the LinkedIn website. If you're not feeling computer savvy, and some of us don't, there are some resources even at the public library where they offer free computer classes. But there's also some opportunities maybe through YouTube or through the internet. So I would encourage you to embrace your computer non-savviness and figure out ways to become more savvy and more comfortable on the computer. Because the fact of the matter is, a lot of things as you go through the recruiting process are going to involve getting on a computer. A lot of the applications are online applications. So feeling more and more comfortable with the computer is going to be important. You may have other demands in your life, other family demands, maybe you're going to school as well. And so trying to figure out ways to balance out those competing demands is going to be important. And maybe fear of rejection. And quite honestly, it's most likely going to happen. But I think the thing to really remember as it relates to rejection specifically is that it's not personal. I may not have chosen a candidate to move forward through a process, but it wasn't because that candidate was poor or didn't do well through the process. It just so happened through that particular process, there was another candidate who I thought could do a better job for us, either because of their personality or how I thought they would fit into the existing team, or just their mix of particular education or years of experience or whatever. So when you don't get a job offer that you're hoping to get, shrug it off and keep moving forward. Tiffany, do we have some more comments in the chat that I need to address, or can we move on?
Nope, you can move on. I'm not seeing anything at all.
Okay, fantastic. All right, the big picture. The Nextjob website, it really is just a wealth of information. So as I mentioned, resume writing, career direction, finding visible and hidden jobs, and that's a really good one. How to contact employers, how to write cover letters, and how to prepare for the interview. I know sometimes you feel like you can't prepare for an interview because you have no idea what they're going to ask, and that's fair enough. but there are a bunch of interview questions that almost every recruiter asks. So if you're unable to answer those, then you're going to be, kind of behind the 8 ball, so to speak. So what you can do is figure out what some of the typical interview questions are. And you can do this from a couple different sources. One is through the Nextjob website. 2 is through Dress for Success. And 3, just Google it, typical interview questions, and then think through what your interview answers would be. The best thing about coming prepared with some answers to typical interview questions is mostly for yourself. It helps you to build your confidence and to lower your stress and anxiety. And when you're ready to answer some of those questions and those questions actually come, then that helps you to feel more comfortable and relaxed. So really can't stress it enough to think through what some of your answers to some typical interview questions might be. So Nextjob supports goal setting, and we talk a little bit about setting a goal and how it relates to what do you want to do, where do you want to work, and you're not going to get the job that you want if you don't know what that job is. You're not going to work at the company that you want unless you know what that company is. So thinking about coming up with that plan and thinking about the goals that you have for yourself as you're going through your job search. So you begin with the end in mind. What does a successful job search day look like to you? I think that's really important. So again, this is to prevent you from doing some of what I call the floundering. So think about what it would be, how you would feel at 8 o'clock at night if you had a good job search day. Would it mean that you sent in 4 online applications and you made 2 connections through LinkedIn? Would it be that you updated your resume and created 3 different versions depending on the type of job you're applying for? So think about some of those kinds of things so that you can feel good about yourself at the end of a job search day, knowing that you accomplished some of those things. And think about your goals in terms of both daily and weekly goals, because sometimes some of your goals are going to, quite frankly, take a little bit longer. So being sure to kind of create that vision for yourself is going to be helpful to you. Productive job seekers generate activity. That's kind of an obvious thing. But different people require different strategies to become and stay productive. How, where, and when are you most productive? And this is where you're going to have to do a little bit more self-talk or self-review. So I personally am a little bit more productive kind of early afternoon, like 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I know that about myself. So oftentimes I'll take my lunch earlier, knowing that I'll then have a longer afternoon of less distractions so that I can focus on my tasks at hand. So think about when you're most productive. Are you most productive after that first cup of coffee and you're an early riser and that's when you're going to knock things out of the park? Or are you more of a night owl and you're going to do more of your online applications after dinner? So think about those kinds of things and then think about where you're going to best put yourself to be successful. So where in your house do you do better with no distractions? So does that mean a room that has fewer windows and a closed door option? So think about those kinds of things again, so that you can set yourself up and give yourself the most likelihood of success. So I already talked a little bit about this. The highest energy level in your day is when. Think about activities that energize and drain you. So, you're going to get drained through this interview process or through this job search process. So think about how you're going to refill and recharge. Is it doing yoga, going for a walk, having something special to eat? What kinds of activities are going to energize you so that you can replenish? What kinds of locations are going to help you to think and focus? And think about who's in your support system. Right? I always talk about who's in your tribe. And what I mean by that is, who do you surround yourself with? And who your friends and family are, who are likely to really encourage you and to motivate you and to push you forward and to give you the kudos and the positive reinforcement that you need. And you also know who in your life is most likely to say, oh, I don't think you can do that. I don't think you should pursue that. that negative talk you really do not need during your job search. And so you might need to think about a delicate way to tell that person in your life, hey, I'm going to be spending a lot of time working on my job search. So as I'm going through this job search, you may not hear from me quite as much. So I can really dedicate my time and my energy to this job search. So just really, it's going to be maybe a little painful and a little awkward, but it's super important to be careful about who's in your tribe and who you're surrounding yourself with during this job search process. So different ways to generate activity. This graph I really do like because it indicates where you should spend the majority of your time. And basically, you should be looking at jobs that are currently available now and cultivating jobs that are going to be available soon. And the cultivating with the jobs that are going to be available soon, this is where you're looking at determining what companies are getting ready to open new locations. Maybe you identify people that are going to be retiring through LinkedIn and through your talent communities. And we'll talk about talent communities in just a moment. But those two areas, the locating the available jobs now and the ones that are going to be coming available soon, that's where you should spend 90% of your time. 10% of your time you may want to spend thinking about creating a job for yourself. And what I mean by that, and it can come off in a couple different ways, but if you determined one of two things, you either want to own your own business, and so how do you get yourself there? Or maybe you really want to work for company B, and you just know that you would be an excellent fit for them. They don't have a job that would necessarily fit all of your skills and abilities. So then you're trying to figure out a way to sell yourself so that they can really understand what a valuable asset you would be to them. Again, you don't want to spend a ton of time there because those don't always come to fruition. And obviously the bigger opportunities are going to be in the positions that are opening now or that will be open very soon. So what are talent communities? There's a couple companies, and we've got a couple of examples here. ADP and Zappos are ones I can think of quickly off the top of my head. But what they do is they have on their website an opportunity for you to say, hey, I really like your organization. I would love to work there. And so you're telling them that by signing up on their, either through their talent community or their insider page. And then you will get first alerts to know when openings are available. And this will give you a little bit of that leg up in terms of timing. So if there's some companies that you've identified that you really think you'd like to work for in the future, I would encourage you to go to their website and click through to see if they have a similar type of a venue where you can indicate that you would like to potentially work for them in the future. Some organizations like the City of Fishers have what they call job alerts or job interest cards. Same kind of thing. You fill out your contact information and say, please notify me if a position comes open that's in the administrative area or customer service area or whatever area that you're most interested in. Then as soon as a job gets posted on their website, you immediately get an email to say, hey, this job has become available. So again, another way so that you can get kind of that inside track or that early notification of a job opening in an organization that you'd like to work for. I mentioned early on about being active or letting your social media sites become dormant and the dangers of doing that. So being active online and in person is really important. It helps with your network. It helps with you learning about openings quickly. So personal and professional connections. If you are involved in an industry that has a professional association, I can't encourage you enough to to do your best to become a member of that association. A couple of things happen, not only networking, but they also have job boards, and their job boards may be the only place that some job openings are listed. And then they may also offer monthly meetings where they can be informational, educational, or social. So if there's a professional association that you can join, then I would highly recommend that you do that. Getting connected with recruiters is obviously another opportunity. Department heads or hiring managers are another nice connection to have. And social networks or social activities can also give you those connections too. So you never know what might happen. And I might even make a little plug for Dress for Success specifically, but actually volunteering can give you another opportunity to meet more people, But you may also decide that you would like to volunteer for an organization that you might like to get a paid position with. And then again, you get to get an opportunity to meet some of the staff there, and get yourself known through them as well. So creating company lists. Again, this goes back to identifying some of the dream companies you would like to work for. And maybe you have a short list that comes off the top of your head pretty quickly, but then it takes you a little bit more thought to figure out who else might be on that list. So maybe you think about competitors of organizations you've worked for before, vendors, past clients. Maybe you go to some lists. IndyStar, I know, does a list of best places to work. There's other organizations that create similar lists as well. So maybe you think about some of your passions or your hobbies. What do you like to do? And is there an organization that can allow you to use what they do to fuel your passion or to kind of explore your hobbies? Maybe you think about companies that have products or services that you like Zappos. I like shoes. Maybe I like to work for Zappos. So it's those kinds of thought processes that would help you to develop your list of dream companies. And then again, thinking about nonprofits that support your values or your personal mission. And maybe it starts out in a volunteer capacity, and then maybe it goes into a paid position in the future. All right, I think I actually might make it through all the slides, so we have some time at the end. This is another resource that's available on Nextjobs, but it's a way to help you stay organized and making sure that you get all the information that you need as you're making contacts to some of those either individuals or companies that you may want to work for in the future. So consider making some of these kinds of spreadsheets so that you can stay organized and focused as you're getting contacts going out. Proactive job search activities, researching employers. One website that some employers or some candidates and employees use is called Glassdoor, and that is a way to research employers. I do want to put a quick caveat out there. Typically, people that post on Nextdoor or any sort of, not Nextdoor, sorry, Glassdoor, and any sort of those kinds of websites typically are leaving negative comments. So understand that sometimes the people who have positive interactions may not necessarily list their experiences there. But if you really don't know anything about an organization, you may want to check out Glassdoor to get some information. Doing a standout resume is super, super important. And I go so far as to say if you are considering, let's say, 3 different types of jobs. So you're considering administration, customer service, or security. I know those are all 3 very different types of industries, but let's say that any 3 of those you'd be happy getting a job in. Make sure that you have 3 different resumes, because if you send to me a resume to do security, but you've applied for a customer service job, I'm going to be confused and I'm probably going to throw your resume out. So make sure that your resume is targeted particularly to that job. If you can even target it farther to, or even more specifically to the job opening that you're applying for, even better. So make sure that your resume is super clean, no typos, no misspellings, easy to read in a logical format, but then make sure that it is also driven towards the industry that you're applying for. Build your LinkedIn profile, create targeted materials I just referred to, ask for virtual introductions. I would occasionally get requests for applicants to just do an informational interview with me. They'd heard about the city of Fishers, want to know a little bit more about career opportunities there. And so I would certainly accept those opportunities to meet them and explore a little bit about their skills and experiences to see if we might have a potential match in the future. So those virtual introductions can pan out for you later. Maintaining visibility and connectivity with people, attending networking meetings. Job fairs, there are virtual job fairs out there, and I'd certainly encourage you to stay in touch with those. Write and practice your 2-minute commercial. If you don't know what your 2-minute commercial is or what a 2-minute commercial is, we often call it an elevator speech at Dress for Success. It should be 2 minutes or less. And what it is basically your introduction to yourself. So it should not be a regurgitation of what your resume is, but it should enhance and kind of add some more information about who you are. It's not meant to be where you were born and how many sisters and brothers you have. It really should be more professionally based, but it should talk a little bit about what your skills and experiences are and where you see yourself going in the future and how you think this position could help you to get that. So if you've never written a 2-minute commercial, there are resources again on Nextjob's website. Dress for Success also has a template that's really helpful for you to fill in the blanks. And then I really encourage you to practice it. Practice it in front of the mirror, practice it with friends and family, and get super comfortable with it. Because oftentimes it's going to come into play when a recruiter says, tell me about yourself, which is the first question that you're asked when you go into an interview. And when you're able to nail that answer, it's going to help you, again, feel more confident and help you feel a bit more relaxed and at ease. So again, don't forget Nextjob website, lots of resources, and spend some time out there. And maybe what you do is you plan to spend 30 minutes a day in your job search plan on the Nextjob website. Maintaining personal balance is really important. You know, we talked again about feeling overwhelmed, feeling stressed, feeling anxious, nervous, all those kinds of things. So maintaining personal balance is super important. Sometimes you think, I gotta get a job quickly, I gotta work on that 100% of the time. When in actual fact, you need to make sure to stay balanced and don't neglect some of the other parts of your life that's going to make you stay more mentally healthy. So making sure you still spend some time with family and friends, making sure that you're spiritually staying engaged, whether that's church attendance or mindfulness or yoga, and making sure you're taking care of your body. So eating well and, walking, exercising, and maybe even volunteering. So making sure you're continuing to be that whole person that has a lot of different activities associated with their daily life and not just job search activities. Sustaining motivation, super important because it will be really challenging at times if you end up looking for a job for a long period of time. If you get rejections from time to time, it can be hard to stay motivated. So again, think about when you're productive, what time of day you're productive, how you maintain, and this is a very personal thing. So it's going to be different from one person to the next. So for me to offer up productivity tips probably wouldn't be necessarily helpful for all of you. So this is where you need to do some self-reflection and think about how you can stay productive. Maybe doing the personality assessment on Nextjob's website. It's free, super fascinating and insightful, and that may even help you understand a little bit more about yourself in terms of how you can stay motivated. Setting boundaries with family and friends, particularly those that you may not want in your tribe during this time. So making sure that you're surrounding yourself with people who are going to be encouraging and positive and supportive of you. And identifying a designated workspace. It's super hard. I know there are a lot of people who have worked from home through COVID, and it can be difficult to have that separate work life and personal life. And so where you're able to make sure to designate a space that is your workspace for looking for a job, that will be very helpful. And refueling your spirit. So all things that are good to do. So just a couple more slides and then we'll open it up in case there's some comments or chats that we want to address. So Nextjob website resources. Think about how you can ask your friends in your network for help. Cover letters and networking templates, resume templates, assessment tools, and as I mentioned earlier, the practice video interview. They've got 20 questions out there that you can practice your answers to. So super, super helpful. I've not seen a website that has this many resources on it. So you have free access to it is phenomenal. Dress for Success resources, again, resume review. If you haven't written a resume or you just want a second set of eyes to look at it, get in touch with Dress for Success, specifically get in touch with Tiffany, and she can reach out to volunteers like me, and we can review your resume for you for free. Even during COVID, we can exchange your resume back and forth through email. One thing I do want to say about resume reviews. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, there's a lot of things that are kind of personal preference as it relates to recruiting. Some things that would bother me about a person's resume may not bother Tiffany, and vice versa, for example. So it's good to get a lot of different people to look at your resume and get different feedback. And sometimes it takes a couple people to look at a resume before they might see a typo as well. So understand that resume reviews, you're going to get different information from different recruiters. None of it bad or wrong. Some of it's personal preference. But I think that getting another set of eyes to look at your resume is never a bad thing. Mock phone interviews can be super helpful, again, for trying out your interview answers. Workshops like today and Dress for Success has been great about offering workshops even throughout COVID, and you never know what tips and tricks you might learn from those. Interview tips, resume tips, success coach, and interview attire. So those are all things that Dress for Success can offer to you as you're looking for a job. So really great resource. Tips for job search success. Again, please, 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 if you do get rejected from a job application, don't take it personally. Don't let it knock the wind out of your sails. Just keep going, pick yourself back up and keep going. You're going to get a yes, I promise. Embrace employment process with a positive attitude. Your positive attitude is going to come through in so many areas. It's almost like it seeps out of your pores. So when you're negative and down and depressed, that's also going to come across either through your phone interviews, your face-to-face interviews, and potentially even in your cover letters and your resume. So do what you can to stay positive, because it really does matter. Understand how to make technology work for you. We talked just briefly about this, but it can feel really overwhelming looking for a job, because there are so many job boards. So some of the things that you need to understand is how to make job alerts work for you, so that the job openings are coming to you rather than you going out and seeking them. And thinking about ways that you're putting in key words as you're doing your job search onto some of those job boards can really reduce the number of openings that you have to scan through each day. So being careful about how you do that. Realize that job search is going to take time. So you have to be willing and able to commit the time to doing a good job search. Commit to doing all the necessary work you need to do to find your next job. So you need to do it. And then just be aware of the self-talk. Again, this is part of that being positive, but if you do get the no, then don't be down on yourself and don't say, oh, I'm not going to get anything that I want. I need to just settle for something else. Don't do that. It's really, really hard, but don't do that, and just staying positive as much as you can. So thanks for sitting in today. Like I said, we covered a lot of material super fast. And this Nextjob website, again, is super nice. There's the access code. You literally go on there and put in an email address and the access code, and boom, you're in. So if you take nothing else away from this presentation, hopefully this resource will be a great tool for you to use going forward in your job search. So I'll take a deep breath now. Tiffany, do we have anything in the chat, or do any of the participants have anything they'd like to add or question, or anything else we need to cover?
The only thing that came in the chat while you were talking was Caitlin said she loved the idea. That was super helpful.
Good.
One thing that I did want to bring up while anybody's kind of typing or thinking of a question they may have, I forgot to mention when we first started that we are advertising right now that if you attend 3 workshops, whether that's 3 of my workshops or a couple of my workshops and a professional women's group workshop or a mixture of whatever, you are able to get 1 free outfit once you attend those 3. Once you attend 3, you just have to email me, or if you're a part of professional women's group, you email Patty Coleman and let us know, and then we'll make sure that we have you down for those 3, and then we can set up how you come in or how you go about getting your outfit. I forgot to mention that earlier. And the only person that I'm not sure who you are for today's session that I have on, it looks like it's under your phone. It says Moto G Stylist. I'm not sure who you are. And then we did just get a question. Can you still hear me, Cece?
I can.
Okay, he looked confused.
Oh, sorry.
No,
I'm
you're
just
okay.
I'm trying to read the chat.
Okay, yeah, no, then you read the chat. You read that question.
Yeah, I think Caitlin's got a question that's probably directed more at you, Tiffany.
Oh, okay. Is there a list I can be added to that announces new workshops? Yes, Caitlin, I can put you in to our system that will allow you to do that. When I send out the email today with the PowerPoint on there, I'll also include a link to our other workshops that are coming up. I think we have them filled out through September at this point. So if there's anything that you see on that list that you want to sign up for, you are more than welcome to go ahead and sign up for that. And then, as you probably know today, you get plenty of reminders that it's coming up. Cool. Does anybody else have any other questions, or is there anything they want to ask Cece or myself?
Yeah, I think go ahead.
If you already been on Nextjob before, do you have to use this code, or can you just use the link that you had before?
Are you talking about Nextjobs?
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's the same code. We've been using this code for, through Dress for Success for a long time, but if you've got your own access code, that's fine too.
No, I don't have a code. I was in the Nextjob. I had a link that they used to send me things to.
Oh, okay.
Awesome.
Yeah, if you've got access, then go for it. That's awesome.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. If anybody out there also has any suggestions or burning desires for particular topics, I think Tiffany and I would both appreciate hearing some topic ideas. So, you know, if there's something that you're seeking out in terms of information or resources, let us know that as well.
Exactly. Yep. All right. And if it's been a topic that you've seen that we've done in the past, we're happy to do it again. Just because we did it earlier this year or last year or whatnot doesn't mean that we can't do it again. All right. Cool. All right. Well, I will get this PowerPoint going. It will take me a couple of minutes because once I get done with this, the recording is going to download and my computer just doesn't work right away. So once that's done, I'll get the email out to everyone. I'll send it to the email that you use to